How does it feel to have lived long enough to see all of your favorite franchises go down in flames?
Feels great.
Blood Elves used to have an identity. They weren't a generic elf race where you could just pick whatever skin color you felt like that week. They were the Sin'dorei, the survivors of Quel'Thalas, high elves who had a very specific history, a very specific culture, and a very specific look that came directly from that history. That look is now being treated like it doesn't matter. In the original lore, Blood Elves come from the High Elves who followed Dathremar Sunstrider after the War of the Ancients. They settled in Quel'Thalas and built their kingdom around the Sunwell, a font of immense arcane power. That magical environment shaped them. Their skin tones in Warcraft 3 and the Burning Crusade were consistently pale to golden. Their eyes glowed green after they started siphoning fel magic to feed their addiction once the Sunwell was destroyed. This wasn't random character design. It was tied to their story. The Sunwell bathed their land in golden light for thousands of years. Their magic, their appearance, and even their sense of superiority were all connected to that. When Arthas and the Scourge came through and corrupted the Sunwell, the surviving High Elves became Blood Elves, Sin'dorei. They were defined by loss, by addiction, and by turning to darker magic to survive. That entire arc had visual consistency for nearly 2 decades. And now you can roll a Blood Elf with dark or black skin in modern retail Warcraft. There is zero lore justification for this. None. No quest, no novel, no chronicle entry, and no in-game explanation exists for why a race defined by thousands of years under the Sunwell's golden light descended from the Highborn of Quel'Thalas suddenly has the full spectrum of human skin tones available.
Yes.
The change wasn't the result of any story development. It wasn't earned through lore. It was just added to the character creator. And we all know why they did it.
For a modern gaming audience.
Blizzard, like most major studios now, operates under corporate diversity mandates. After the Activision merger and years of internal pressure, they adopted aggressive DEI frameworks that treat established racial and cultural aesthetics as problems to be solved rather than features to be preserved. Homogeneous or distinct-looking races are viewed as liabilities. The solution is always the same. Expand customization until every race can look like every other race, regardless of the world's internal logic. This isn't about serving the story. It's about making sure the character creator can generate whatever combination an activist or HR department might demand.
But he, him, she, her, and they, them, and then your gender is man, woman, non-binary. Love that. Love the inclusivity. Top surgery scars.
Lore consistency, visual identity, and the actual history of the Sin'dorei became secondary to hitting internal diversity metrics. Even Chris Metzen noticed the shift when he returned. He admitted he was surprised by how much more democratized the Warcraft writing team had become during his absence. Instead of one strong creative voice guiding the direction, the process had turned into a group-driven structure where multiple voices and a wider array of experiences now shape the narrative. That's corporate language for committee decision-making and diluted vision.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
The same man who helped build the foundational lore of Blood Elves and Quel'Thalas came back to find that singular creative authority had been replaced by something much more bureaucratic and ideologically influenced. That's the environment these decisions get made in. They didn't add dark-skinned Blood Elves because it made sense for the world. They added them because leaving any major race with a consistent limited aesthetic range is now considered bad optics inside these companies. The character creator must be able to produce every single possible modern identity combination, even if it completely breaks the visual language that defined that race for 20 years. And that's the actual reason. Not artistic growth, not more options in any meaningful sense, just corporate policy overriding world building. And this same rot is spreading everywhere. Look at the new Fable. The original games had a very specific, crude, satirical British fantasy tone. The new one is clearly steered into something safer and more generic to fit modern corporate standards. God of War did it too.
You're a cube.
They took Kratos, a character defined by rage and Greek tragedy, and slowly turned him into a trauma-processing dad who gives therapy speeches. The brutal identity that defined the character for years got softened for broader appeal. And we've seen the same pattern in Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
So, I'm non-binary.
Where factions and characters were reshaped to fit current political priorities over the brutal world they originally built. And we've seen it in The Witcher Netflix adaptation and Amazon's Rings of Power, where established cultural and ethnic identities were overwritten for diversity casting with no regard for the source material's internal logic. The pattern is always the same. Studios take something that had a specific identity and decide that identity is negotiable. They expand the customization or casting until the original look and feel becomes just one option among many. Then they act surprised when the thing stops feeling like itself and falls off a cliff and sells lower and lower copies, and players leave in droves. Blood Elves are a perfect example because the change is so unnecessary. There was never any demand in the lore for dark skin or black blood elves. Their entire existence was tied to a specific place, a specific magical source, and a specific history of survival and corruption. Adding skin tones that have no connection to any of that doesn't expand the world. It just makes blood elves less distinct. And once you do this to enough races, every fantasy setting starts looking the same. You lose the visual language that tells you what you're looking at. A blood elf should look like they come from Quel'Thalas. When every race can look like every other race, you stop having races. You just have character models with different ear shapes. And this is the rot. This is the infection. It's not about skin color. It's about the refusal to let anything keep its own identity if that identity doesn't fit current-day corporate priorities. They'd rather make everything interchangeable than risk someone saying a particular race or culture lacks representation. Blood Elves had representation. They represented fallen high elves who lost everything and clawed their way back using dangerous magic. That story had a face. Now it has a color picker. And they're doing this across the entire industry because it's easier than actually writing distinct peoples with distinct histories and distinct appearances. It's safer, it's more marketable, and it makes the worlds feel smaller every single time they do it. Blood Elves deserved better than becoming just another checkbox. So did Fable. So did Kratos. And so did a lot of things. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And I'll see you in the Kobold's Cave.
For a modern gaming audience.